Welcome. Today we're going to look at how to find the perfect Mansfield home for sale. So if you've been looking to purchase a home in Mansfield, this is your video. Here's your sign. This is the one that we're going to really go into Mansfield through and through. We're going to look at Mansfield real estate. We're going to look at the property taxes in Mansfield. We're going to actually do a real life scenario, breakdown of a property in Mansfield. I'm going to show you how to calculate the monthly mortgage payment, things to consider, things to watch out for when you're out there searching. So if you've been considering purchasing a home in Mansfield or are considering a home, maybe not as intentionally in Mansfield, other surrounding cities as well, a lot of the principles apply in those particular cities as well. So regardless of where you happen to be in your home buying journey, this is a video that I wanted to put together because oftentimes it can get overwhelming, it can get frustrating, it can get a little bit demoralizing when you're looking to purchase a home, of not knowing where to start, getting mixed information from different lenders, from different realtors, from different family members, and everybody kind of putting in their own 2 cents, and sometimes those 2 cents just don't add up to what they should, right? So there's a lot of misconceptions out there that we're going to address today. So again, we're going to find that perfect house, and I'm going to show you how to actually find it almost as if you were right here, which not in case, you're actually going to see how I do it right now. So let's share the screen. Let me zoom in. Well, let's not zoom in right now. So regardless of what online portal you go with, whichever online portal you feel most comfortable with, start there. If you're familiar with Zillow, stay with Zillow. If you're familiar with Realtor.com, stay with Realtor.com. Whatever online portal you like and whatever UX or whatever interface you like, stick with it. This is one that, so here is my website, so jaimericenez.exprealty.com. This is directly tied to the MLS, so you get real-time information updated by the minute. So if a home is off the market, you're going to see it instantly be off the market, as opposed to third-party sites out there that might be a little bit harder for those updates to get pushed through to them. So oftentimes when you are looking for a home and it says, hey, it's for sale, you might get frustrated on the only to find out that when somebody searches on the MLS itself, that home has already gone under contract and has long sold. So that's the struggle, right? So today we are going to look at Mansfield. So what we're going to do is we're going to go Mansfield and look at the city. So right now, as we zoom in, there's about 530 properties. This includes all types of properties, but the average price point is $579. So there's about 530 properties for sale, average price point of $579. Now that includes all of these. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna focus on single family homes, as that's where most of the action is gonna be. And that is all the requirements that we're going to put for right now. I'm going to show you how to break down the search to make it a little bit easier, so we don't get lost along the way, because home buying can get a little bit complex if we allow it to, but we're not going to do that today. We're not going to allow it to get any more complicated than it needs to be. So as you're looking at this community, as you're looking at this city, there's a few things that you want to ask yourself. Now, one of the most important things to ask yourself is, where the heck is it? Which Mansfield is on the southernmost part of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So everything here is pretty much already built out to Mansfield. Before, you'd have to drive a little bit before you saw some additional houses in Mansfield. But at this point, Mansfield is what we would consider DFW proper, if you will. It's very much in the mix. It's fully growing out. Now with Mansfield itself, it has a lot of new construction going on. It has actually at one point had the largest master plan community in the entire metroplex. So most of that community has already been built out, which was right in through here. However, it's continuing to go even more. So there's a lot of new construction happening over here as well. Now, again, we're looking at the location, so we know where it's at the moment. Now, the thing that we want to consider as well is, where are we going to, if we're working, if we're still working, and if we need to be driving to work, where is our commute going to take us? Do we need to go to downtown Dallas? Downtown Dallas or downtown Fort Worth? Do we need to go up here to Central Park at DFW like Coppell? We need to start looking at these things as we are considering Mansfield. So as an example, there is one toll road and one toll road only that connects to Mansfield. So this, well, let me rephrase that. There's one toll road period that you would need to consider, which is this stretch from right here, where the Y happens, and right in through here. So this should be sublet. Right in through here is when the toll road ends. So just so you know, this little stretch right here, it'll cost you a few bucks if you're gonna take it. Now you can go on the access road all day long, but you know, you have traffic lights and things of that nature. But for all intents and purposes, if you're gonna go east or if you're gonna go north, you're probably gonna hop on 360. Now, if you're gonna go west, that is a free road right here, 287. It'll take you wherever you need to go. Now, if you want to backtrack and then hop on 67, a lot of commuters do that as well. So you can get a straight shot into downtown Dallas without having to worry about a toll road. It's totally up to you, but I like to call that out because, again, on the commute, it's a real consideration because you're doing that daily. Now, if you're doing remote work, maybe the commute's not as important. So that consideration might not be as big of a thing for you. But the second thing is going to be a big consideration for you is what type of lifestyle are you looking for? Are you looking for the lake lifestyle? Are you looking for the restaurant every evening lifestyle? Are you looking for trails? What are you looking to do? So this is something that you're going to want to look at, you know, pretty significantly. One of the easiest ways, as an example, if you like being outside, if you like parks, the easiest thing to do is just go on Google or similar here to what you're seeing on the website. You get to see where the greenery is at, right? So you get to see the different footprint of where is there some green space that I could enjoy. Now, again, that's just one example. Now, if you're looking for where the schools, where they happen to be, again, you can go hop on the Google or check them out here of where the schools happen to be. A lot of this, again, it has to do with the lifestyle that you're looking to have. What does my community need to look like? So that's the second consideration, because the moment that you leave your house, your oasis, then you're in it, right? So if you're well, anyway, I'll kind of get into into some additional stats that might be important for us. Now, this has to do where we're located. Now, what we're gonna do very, very quickly, actually not as quickly, we are gonna go over here and just look at some basic information, just some overview information of things to consider. So with Mansfield, you are looking at, depending on where you're at, you may think that this is a small number, you think this is a huge number, but essentially you're looking at 75,000 in population, which for my money, that's considerably large. The median age is 37.3. So this is letting you know that there are younger folks here, there's younger families here. So that gives you a lot of indications. Number one, as mentioned, there's younger families here. So you're typically looking at smaller kids into, well, at this age, they're kind of getting into the teenage and to graduation years, depending on when you start. So based off of that, it lets you know several different things. Number one, homes are a little bit affordable, or are more affordable because you have more of a younger population that is able to live here, right? Second thing that you can also take to the bank here is that there's probably childcare, there's probably daycare, there's probably a good amount of that type of business because it's serving to the populace that lives in this area. Now, if this was the median age was 100, it's not going to be 100, but if the median age was 100, well, that lets you know there's probably a few retirement homes around the block. So it tells you a lot, not trying to be ageist, but it just gives you a lot of rational or a lot of reasonable deductions just from that information. So the younger, just as a general note, the younger the median age, typically it's either going to be either more renters and or less expensive property. That's generally what it's going to look like. So again, the younger the median age, that's what you're looking at. So as an example, with a city over here in Crowley, right next to it, like Crowley, Burleson, these skew a little bit younger as well. They skew about 35 on average. 35 is the median age there, just to give you some perspective. And Arlington is roughly around the same median age as Mansfield, just slightly a little bit younger, like around 36. I don't worry too much about the poverty rate. That depending on where you go, it gives you every different metric. Same with the unemployment. You would think that there would be just a unilateral way of presenting unemployment, and although there's just been so many different interpretations of what the unemployment number looks like, especially after COVID, that we're not even going to worry about that. The median household income, this one does tend to skew correctly, at least from this website, which it is linked down below, but all you have to do is go to datausa.io and go to Mansfield, and the median household income is about $112,000. Now this, we're not going to worry too much about because this is outdated, and a year growth of 17% has not happened here this past year and the year before that because of the higher interest rate. So we're not going to worry too much about that. What was important for us is to just have an idea of the population size and also the median age. Now, very briefly, we're going to hop on down here and look at some additional statistics or data points that give us some really good, meaningful information if this is going to be the city for us. And that is right here. So the homeownership rate in Mansfield is 75.5%. This essentially is letting you know how many of the people that that own a home in Mansfield are actually occupying it. So basically, if you're looking at a home ownership rate that's below 75%, like going into 60%, 50%, that lets you know that there's a lot more rentals out there. Generally, you're going to see, as this number decreases, you're going to see real estate prices be lower because there's a lot more landlords out there. Now, as this the homeownership rate grows, not generally, like all the time, as this homeownership rate grows, you're typically looking at a higher real estate price. So as an example, if you're in Southlake, a median price point out there is about $900,000. That has about a 98% homeownership rate. You're not renting those properties out. You're essentially, that's what I call a destination city, meaning you're working your butt off to end up at that destination, end up at that the holy grail of cities, the South Lakes of the world, the Highland Parks of the world, the Colleyvilles of the world that have A plus everything, the schools, the real estate, the amenities, the ABCs, right? So here again, homeownership rate 75%. That's relatively on par. It's like if it's neighboring city Arlington, it's gonna be a little bit less, so it means there's a few more rentals out there. But with Mansfield, you're looking at that price point where you do need some savings to get into Mansfield. It's gotten to that point where there's so much new construction is skewing the average prices higher because there's just so much new construction. A lot of the homes that exist are actually on the newer side. So that's one thing that I want to bring to your attention, but also something else that I want to bring to your attention before we start looking at properties themselves is the commute time. The average commute in Mansfield is 28 minutes. This is for a city that's a little bit on the suburbs, that's a little bit further away from the central parts of the central part of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. That's about right. You're going to see cities that are a little bit further away get into the 30 minutes of average commute time. Now, cities that are a little bit closer to the mix of things like the Bedfords of the world, the Addisons of the world, the Louisvilles of the world, there the average commute is going to be roughly around 25 minutes or below. So that's where you see a big jump in the average commute time. Of course, the closer that you are to the mix, because typically if you're living in those areas, you're trying to get as close as possible to the place that you work generally. Right, so just giving you a perspective there. Now, with that being said, that's all I wanted to do in this particular website. I wanted to present this information to you. There's a lot of other cool things that you can look at, like the healthcare expenses, cost of living, and everything in between. But I'll leave that to you. This is going to be linked down below, and also you can go directly to it. What I want to do more now is shift gears a little bit, and I want to start looking at the real estate itself. Again, the goal here is to find that perfect house in Mansfield, and that's what we're going to be doing. So we started by finding out where the heck this was. We also started looking at we started considering what the commute is going to look like for us. So regardless of where you work, only you know that. So you get to decide how far out you want to be from your place of employment. But now we need to start looking at the properties. Now that we're pretty dead set on Mansfield, that we think, hey, this is going to be a good spot for us, I want to show you how to look at properties. I want to show you how to make the breakdown from a calculate the mortgage payment, calculate property taxes, calculate a lot of the expenses that you're going to incur. I want to show that to you right now. So let's do this. Let's zoom in for a quick second. And I'm going to move myself a little bit. So let's just browse. There's too many properties to go into all of them, of course, but I'm just going to just briefly browse through a few. 368 properties here in Mansfield for sale. So we look at the lowest priced home is $230,000. That is a 1,300 square foot home, 3 beds, 2 baths. Now, whenever we're looking at properties, there's 2 milestones that I like to look at. Number one is, at what price point do my rehabbed properties go out onto the market? So meaning, at what price point, if I'm an investor and I'm taking some of the properties that I've rehabbed, generally I'm buying properties that are on the lower 25% quartile of pricing. So essentially these properties that are being sold as is, that are being sold without necessarily having a lot of improvements, a lot of upgrades or anything like that. I want to see at what price point those investors are putting these same properties back out onto the market. So that improvement. So essentially the resale value, because that lets me know a lot about the resale value, lets me know a lot about the investment, and then also lets me know if there's a city that might not have as much new construction as Mansfield. Lets me know at what price point I would be able to find a property like new, may not be new, but like new for my client. So it's a really good indicator. So again, that's the number one benchmark that I'm looking for. So as we scroll through here, I'll call some of those numbers out. Now, as you're looking through, again, we're just going to briefly look at all these properties. So you see that there's 10, 11 properties under 300,000 right now in the city of Mansfield, and one including a pool. So all of these are they've probably been maintained well. I'm not going to say that they're not, but these are not rehabbed homes, and I'll call out the rehabbed homes as soon as we get to that benchmark that I'm talking about. So now we're in the 300,000, so you get to see and appreciate how much of a home you would be able to purchase for about $350,000 or less. So we still haven't hit that benchmark or that milestone that I keep talking about the rehabbed homes. And it's usually pretty distinct, pretty evident, just from the front of the houses. And I still haven't seen any of those right now. So let me just click through, making sure I don't miss any of them, and call out that first benchmark. This appears to be one. Yep, this is rehabbed. I can tell based off of the appliances, the way that they have blue taped. Awesome. So this one gave me I could feel it that this was a rehabbed home, and we got it right. So right around here, which is about right for Mansfield, right around here is when we start seeing the rehab pricing. This one gave me a little bit of a vibe, but let's see. Give me a little bit of a, hey, look at me, I might be rehabbed inside. Although from the landscaping, I don't know if that's true or not. So we're just going to quickly go through. It is not. So 1 for 2. This property just looks like it's well maintained. All right, so let's just keep going. So that one about 375,000. Okay, so it's under 400,000. We don't have to be exact, but it tells us a lot. So right here, it's reduced. That looks like a little bit of staging going on. That looks like a very well maintained home. Yeah, it's going to be around the 400,000. That's where the rehabbed homes happen to be. So under 400,000. So that's the first benchmark. The second benchmark that I like to look for is the new product, the new homes. In Mansfield, there's a ton of new construction right now. So we're gonna quickly find new construction homes as we continue to scroll through. And there's our first one, $420,000. So for $420,000, you can get a brand new home in Mansfield. And this is already a rehabbed home, just I can already tell. So And let's just see what a rehabbed home looks like in Mansfield. Good looking home. Good looking home. All right, so we just see one, 420. So we need to get a few more data points for us to feel confident of the new builds that are being built. This is a new home as well, 450. So we have one for 420 and 450. This one looks like new, but I don't think this is new. This is new. And this is new. So around the 400 and let's say 450 to 500,000, that's where you can find new construction in Mansfield. And that's about right. So you see a lot of you're still under 500,000, and I'm seeing a lot of really cool looking properties. Like this one is an example. This one's a really good looking property. We might end up trying to buy that one, but just giving you kind of a bit of a sense of what's going on from a real estate perspective. This is the same way that you start looking at homes. You start looking at what you like, what you don't like, looking at what's updated, what's not updated, looking at the yard, looking at the pictures. That's where a lot of this starts. Now, just for curiosity's sake, we like to go to the extremes to see what are the most expensive homes, because we all can dream, right? Right now, the most expensive home in Mansfield is $1.9 million. Beautiful looking home. You have a few you have a few properties that are over $1 million. So if this is in your budget, let us know. Even if it's not, let us know as well. But we're gonna go back and we're gonna start breaking down a property, or start looking at a property to do some math around, because we need to do a little bit of a breakdown. What do we want to buy? So if you have an idea of a property that you want to buy, let me know in the comment section down below. This looks like a really good looking property, and I like that this property has been reduced, so we're going to do this one. I like the brick. I like the feel of it. It's going to be a good one to do a breakdown on. So when we do the breakdowns, we're going to go and look at the property itself. So we're going to first start with the images. Then I'm going to give you a few points to consider as you're reviewing all the details, because there's a lot. As you can see, there's a ton of information here, so it can be a little bit overwhelming is the word that I would go with. So how long has this been on the market? Anyway, no, we'll do that. We'll look at that later. First, we need to look at this. All right, so good looking. I like the brick, and I like the stone, and I like the garage. There's a lot that I like about this property. Now, I'm wondering how old how long either these images are, or do we just not water grass anymore? No offense. So I don't know if this was taken, if this has been on the market for a while, because right now, as I'm recording this video, it's in the summer. So I'm just giving you, as I'm starting to as I'm starting to observe a few things, these are the things that come to mind whenever I'm looking for a property. So something else that strikes out to me is that, for all intents and purposes, this is new mulch or fresh mulch, and the landscaping seems to be well maintained. So that lets us know a lot about, if you are maintaining the front, you're probably maintaining the inside. There's probably a joke there somewhere. So, okay. Good looking home. I like this. So I can tell right now that this home has been updated at one point or another. This is not a standard paint. This is not a standard home. So I can see the trim. I like it. I like the door. I mean, just the door alone. I like it's a unique door. It doesn't come with, I don't even remember what the price is, but I'm liking a lot about this property, as you can already tell. All right. Good flooring. You have a garage. I'm sorry, garage. Fireplace. Where did the garage come from? Fireplace. So this home is probably built in 2015, 2018 or so. Probably around there. All right. So Good looking home. It looks pretty well maintained. I like the fact that it's right next to the kitchen, so you can do a lot of entertaining here. So it all opens up to a huge room. So you have your dining, you have your living, and you have your kitchen area. So everybody can be hanging out in the same vicinity. I like that layout. You have, depending on who you ask, you might want some more cabinets, but I think that that's more than plenty. I like the backsplash the way that it is. We'll get a little bit closer. So you have microwave and double ovens, very large fridge, and a cool little island over here. I like the layout. I like this layout a lot. So you have a gas. Okay, so if I just click, it'll keep it in one place. It's a gas stove, so it's a gas range. All right, so it appears to be room number 1. Now the blinds don't necessarily match the. Okay, well these are standard blinds. I don't know why I was expecting. I shouldn't have expected plantation shutters, which that would not really be in line with what this property asking price would be anyway. So this appears to be the primary bedroom. So it's a little bit longer than it is wide. That's typical. But you fit a lot. This is a lot of bit larger. How do I go back? Can I go back? Yeah. So you're fitting a lot of larger units here. So you have the large bed, plenty of storage space that was added. So you have the tub and the shower. I like it. I like it a lot. So it could be like a living area, if not a. Yeah, this is a little living area that could have been converted into a theater room. So you have plenty of outlets up here to do that. That's what it was intended to do. So you have another bedroom. I don't know what this is. It looks like another, like a little landing area. You have another bedroom. I keep hovering. All right. So this is probably facing to the east, if I had to guess, based off of where the sun is coming from. So your evenings might be a little bit hot. Might be a little bit hot, so you might need to get some like darker shades out here, darker screens out here to help you with the heat. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. So it's facing the east, so plenty of brick, good sized lot. I like it. I like it. You can use the side of the house, and you can also use the back of the house. Good property. All right, so that was a little bit of a eye tease, just some eye candy for you. At $515,000, this could be yours. So let's start looking at some numbers. Let's start looking at some data that would be important for us to know as we're finding that perfect house for us. So this property is in Tarrant County, which just about all of Mansfield is going to be in Tarrant County, so we're in a good spot there. Taxes, we're going to talk about taxes extensively, so don't go anywhere. $11,180. Now, simply because you see taxes here does not mean that that's the amount that you're going to be paying. In some cases, you could be paying more. In some cases, you could be paying less. It's going to depend on the factors that I share with you here shortly. So just to get a rough, and I mean super rough estimate based off of what's probably the market value, assuming this sells for $515, the assessed value is probably somewhere $500,000 or so, give or take a couple thousand. So you're looking at roughly, just ballparking, 2.2% in property taxes, which is on par with Mansfield. And we're gonna get the exact number here shortly, but I just want to call that out because property taxes are very misunderstood and are very important. Very important, given that you're paying property taxes for as long as you own that property. Property taxes in Texas are among the highest in the country. Texas ranks as number 6 with the highest property tax rate in the country. And so we're gonna look into that. So right now it's $515,000 is the price. 4 beds, 3 baths, full baths. So I like that. 3,000 square foot home. So for it to be a 3,000 square foot home, on a one floor. This was one floor, right? Good footprint. That lets me know that it's probably on a, okay, I was about to say a fifth of an acre, but it's 1.8, so not too far off. So I knew that the lot needed to be a little bit larger to accommodate that size square footage. So we're not too far off. All this information is going to be pretty uniform for the most part. But the one thing I wanted to look at was what type of HOA fees we were expecting. It looks like $564. If they don't call out if it's semi-annual, quarterly, whatnot, we can assume it's a yearly rate. So it's $564 for your HOA. So the Homeowners Association does apply here. Mansfield ISD, which was pretty much expected. I guess 2015 to 2018, if I remember correctly. So I wasn't too far off. 2017. Oh, it is 2 levels. So upstairs, that little spot that I mentioned about, like, that was more for a theater room. There was a second story to that. It's hiding it pretty well. So it must just have the, oh, duh, there's stairs. I don't know how I missed that. So it must go straight just into that particular area. So your entertainment's going to be done up front on the second floor. Association fee is annually. Okay, so that makes sense. All right, so the rest of the information is going to be pretty standard. Pretty much, it's going to be something that we're not going to really need to focus too much on. All right, so here's what we do need to factor in. Here's what we need to look at. We need to start doing some math here. We are going to purchase this house, and we're going to break it down based off of the loan, different loan scenarios. So we're going to take this amount and we're going to apply it over here to our Loan Clarity Advisor. Now, this is going to be linked down below if you want access to this particular tool, but it's also found on winthehouseyouLove.com. This is our partner channel with Kyle Seagraves, who has Win the House You Love YouTube channel, and the website. You can pick up this Loan Clarity Advisor right there, so you can do the exact same calculation that we're doing in the comfort of your own home. So let's get to work. All right, so we're going to select that we're buying in Texas at the moment, and we are going to be paying $515,000 for this property. Now, property taxes, let's talk about them. Property taxes in Texas are a big deal, as we talked about earlier. When you purchase the property, you're paying property taxes until you no longer own that property. 2, property taxes in Texas are among the higher, has a higher rate in the state of in the entire country. So we're number 6. Now, the third thing to consider when it comes to property taxes, you would think there would just be one singular number and you would apply that to the assessed value of your home. That is not the case. We're looking for up to 5 numbers to add together to get our true property tax, like property taxes. To give you an idea, the range that we're looking for is between 1.8 to about 3% in property taxes. And every single city is different. Every single city is different, but we are looking at 5 numbers that we're going to add together to get to our true property tax rate. Our city tax rate, our county tax rate, our ISD tax rate, and then potentially a higher education tax rate and potentially a hospital network tax rate. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Mansfield, Texas property tax rate, and we're going to go straight to the city to see if they break it down the way that we need it to be broken down. Let's see here. Making sure I'm not missing anything there. All right. Now we're going to go down here, and it does. Oh, you did a really good job. Thank you, Mansfield. Not all cities make it this easy, folks. Mansfield, you get an A+, the way that you present it, and you even give us a discount. Phenomenal. So the tax year for 2022 was this tax rate. Now for 2023, your tax rate is 2.31. So when we did that ballparking of how much property taxes were, we weren't too far off. We guessed 2.2% based off of this math and what I would estimate the assessed value is, plus assuming a bit more of homestead exemptions that were probably applied to that property. But anyway, I digress. Remember when we talked about 5 numbers that we were going to be adding up, potentially up to 5 numbers? We talked about the city, we talked about the county, talked about the ISD, we talked about potentially a higher education, so think of it like community colleges, and a hospital network, so the hospital district here that they've included. Now you've gotten a tax break on every single one of these, which is good. So now the property tax rate is 2.31%, which is pretty darn good if you ask me, because that's typically on the lower end of the range. So remember, 1.8% to about 3% is where you're at in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. And for Mansfield, a very coveted city, for it to be 2.31%, that's pretty good for us. So we're going to guesstimate. Unfortunately, we can't get down to the actual molecular level, but we can get pretty close of 2.25%. That's what we're going to put as our guess. Or not our guess, that's ultimately what's going to end up being. So 2.31%, just so you know, is what the property tax rate is in the city of Mansfield. Insurance, we're going to leave it at this. It's 0.75% of the value of the home, which we then divide out by 12 months, which gives us the premium of about $320 per month on home insurance. HOA, we can add it here. It would be a little bit more than what we need, but to add the HOA, you would just, as an example, if you had a $1,200 a year HOA, you would just skew it up there. So for our purposes today, since it's $564, I think I'm right, we're going to leave it at nothing, even though we can just add that in later. All right, so let's go into different options. For our purposes today, we're going to go with 5%. And go with 5% on all these, and we're going to convert this into a conventional loan. We're going to put conventional, and we're going to say it's 20%. All right, so we're giving ourselves 3 different loan options, so you can see the difference on what it would mean from a payment perspective and a lifetime perspective. So again, conventional, FHA, and back to conventional. So the difference being the down payment. So we're going to say that this is a down payment of 5%. Over here, we're going to say the down payment is also going to be 5%. And over here, we're going to say the down payment is 20%. Now, let's talk about minimums. If you're a first-time home buyer, you can purchase a conventional home or a purchase with a conventional loan for as little as 3% down. And that's if you're a first-time home buyer. Now, with an FHA, your minimum down payment is, the minimum down payment on that loan is going to be 3.5%. Now, those are minimums. Now, why did I put 20% down? The reason I put this scenario of 20% down is because there's this myth that you need 20% down to purchase a home. That is not true. The reason that 20% comes up all of the time in these conversations is because if you put at least 20% down, you avoid what's called mortgage insurance. So an additional expense, an additional fee that you're paying monthly. So mortgage insurance is some insurance that the lender puts on you in the event that you default. It's another way of saying they're trying to take more money from you and recuperate their money as quickly as possible in the event that you default. Whether there was mortgage insurance or not, they would have recourse of taking the property back, but they're trying to get their money back a little bit sooner rather than later. Oh, have this always been here? Let me move myself back. That's where the 20% comes down. Like, well, we'll talk about PMI and all that stuff here shortly, or more conversations around that. We're going to put 30 years for all of our loans. Interest rates, we're going to go over here to mortgage interest rates today, and we're going to see what Google is telling us right now. So we're going to say that this is the loan's going to be 5%. Yeah, 500,000. It's not going to matter too much about this little detail. We're going to say that this is our scenario right now. I know these are average rates from previous, but I just want to give us a really good ballpark. Interest rates are actually a little bit lower than this right now. Let's see. Let's see if we can get a little bit closer, because that is gonna, let's just get a little bit closer. Why not? Let's go to bank rate. Yeah, let's go to bank rate instead of, I don't like the fact that it takes so long for this one to update. So we're just going to go over here and just get an average. All right, so right now the average is 6.8%. So on a purchase, 30 years, that is what we're seeing right now. So we're going to use that number. We're going to go with 6.8% is the interest rate at the moment, and we're going to apply it to all the loans to compare apples to apples, even though if you put more money down, you're probably going to get a lower interest rate. But for our purposes today, we're going to keep everything the same. The second thing we're going to look at is, actually, we're not going to look at points. So whenever you buy points, that means that you're essentially prepaying interest, which is essentially what point buying is. You're paying a percentage of the loan that you have to buy down the interest. So as an example, 1% of the loan that you have on this property would be what? $500,000. You'd be paying $5,000 to lower this by a point, and a point would vary from like 0.25% to 3.5%, something like that. So this interest rate would go down to 6.6 as an example, something like that, or a little bit lower than that. So point buying, that's what that means. So if you are point buying, you're going to put that amount here. The reason that we include it here is because oftentimes you're going to be looking at different lenders, and I encourage you to do that. That's totally okay. But this way you're able to compare apples to apples. So you would have the same loan and apply it on all the scenarios. That way you can compare a Chase loan to a Wells Fargo's loan to a cross-country loan, and have an apples to apples comparison to see which one would actually cost you less money, factoring in the fees, factoring in the lifetime. All right, monthly MI, so monthly mortgage insurance. Remember when we talked about the interest, remember when we talked about the 20% down? If we're not putting at least 20% down, we're paying mortgage insurance. So with a conventional loan, you're going to be paying this amount up until you own about 20% of the home, meaning as you're making payments. So in a year, around, assuming a normal appreciation around year 11 or so, you would eventually get rid of that mortgage insurance. So that goes away. With an FHA loan over here, you're going to be paying very similarly the same mortgage insurance rate, except that never goes away. Except you're going to be paying that for the life of the loan, and I'm going to show you that here shortly. Now, if you're making extra payments, then you would add them here, whether it's a lump sum or if you're going to plan to make additional monthly payments, you're able to factor that in so you can accelerate the payment of your home. And this does a best loan analysis, which just to be completely candid, conventional 20% when you compare it against the other products, gonna win all the time. Especially when you factor in the lower interest rate that you're gonna get if you do 20%. So it's gonna win, but this gives you a visual and gives you an amount of by how much it would win, right? So it saves you $86,000 in the long run. Now, I can already hear you typing. Well, of course I would like to save that amount, but I don't have $100,000 to put down. I hear you. If you're in a place where you can put 20% down and you want to put that 20% down, well, this is the math for you. If you're not in a place to put 20% down, I don't blame you. Very few people are in that place. So don't don't stretch yourself and wait to get to this amount, because by the time you wait to get this amount in the bank, that home's going to cost more, most likely. But anyway, so just wanted to kind of call that out because it's something that, again, it's more of a visual thing for you to see the difference it would make. But I fully appreciate and am empathetic to the fact that not everybody has that down payment to make. So just be mindful of that. Loan cost breakdowns. Now this cost is being done based off of this sliding scale here. So long term, this is how much the loan would cost you long term and how much you would save in the long run if you were to do all 30 years of that loan. Now, I want to show you what I want to show you. I want to show you the 10-year mark. We're going to go with the 10 years because that's on average, people move 8 to 9 years every 8 to 9 years. So whenever you purchase the property, you're not going to stay there all that long. You're not going to stay there to really satisfy all 30 years on average. This is why we're giving you just a different scenario. So we're assuming that in 10 years, this is what the loan cost breakdown is going to be. Your finance mortgage insurance, that is going to apply to an FHA loan. That is a fee. It's straight just fee. There's a fee that you'll pay about 1.75% of the value of the loan amount. And this is a fee that you're going to pay come heck or high water. Monthly mortgage insurance, we already talked about that up here since we're not putting 20% down. That applies to both conventional and FHA because we put 5% down on both of those. With the 20% down, that doesn't apply to us because we put 20% down. So this is what you're saving in the first 10 years if you were to go down the conventional. But going back to a previous point that we made, we already outlaid $103,000. So it's not that we're saving it so much. It's just that, yeah, I guess we are saving it, but it would be, if we're not at a pace to put 20% down, then it becomes a moot point anyway. Interest, this is what the interest would end up looking like. If you're paying lender fees. And so the reason it looks so high, and one, because it is because in your first years, you're mostly paying interest. You're paying pennies. You're paying pennies to the principal. So just to show you what that looks like. So here on conventional, notice that most of this goes to interest. So your payment would be that, but your interest, you're paying most towards your interest. Of that amount, most of it's going to your interest, right? So that's why you see this number completely outpace how much you're actually paying to principal. So that's where that number, if it looked a little bit high, you may be thinking, hey, this is calculated wrong. No, it's just the reality that most of the expenses, most of the interest is paid at the beginning of the loan term. Do we want to start? We'll hide the investment calculator for now. You can click on it and play around with it, but for our purposes today, we're not gonna worry too much about that. But we are gonna worry about our monthly payment, and we're gonna start with year 0. So year 1, what does our month 1, year 1, what does our cost? What is our cost? So on the conventional loan, our monthly mortgage payment is going to be $4,700 or a little bit over $4,700. Under the FHA plan, you're $4,734, and on the conventional, you're just shy of $4,000 per month. And this breaks this down based off of the principal that you're paying, on the interest that you're paying. Again, this is year 1, month 1. I'm going to show you what it would look like in year 10. Taxes is what you're paying in taxes. That's why it's important for us to have a really good representation of what property taxes are in the area. That's why we went through the trouble of going to Mansfield directly and finding out what that interest rate was, or that property tax rate was. Homeowners insurance, this is going to be the same throughout. Mortgage insurance, at the beginning of the year, the first month, the first year, we have PMI, mortgage insurance across the board for conventional and FHA. HOA, know that you are going to have an HOA payment, but it's not going to be included into the mortgage. This is something that you pay at the beginning of the year with most HOAs. And remember that, I think that was what, $562 is what we saw in the listing over here. I think that's what it was. $564. I missed it by $2. So we're not including it here yet. Just know that that's going to be an expense that you're going to have. Now, if you want to go and take it to that next level, you can include an estimate of utilities and maintenance. So it lumps in together basically what it would cost you to maintain that home and the utilities associated to that. So you see your true cost, your actual cost of home ownership versus not, which is pretty powerful. Oh, and I promised I was going to do the 10-year. So notice how this number, so 53, let me remove this because I don't want to conflate too many things. 4720, 4734, and just shy of 4,000. So notice what happens when we go to year 10. When we go to year 10, you see that this number has gone down slightly. That has gone down slightly, but we're still paying mortgage insurance. So if we go to year 12, by then I'm sure it's already been dropped off. The mortgage insurance has gone away. And why did that happen? Well, because at this point, by this time, you have owned at least 20% equity of your home. And this is a very conservative number. You're most likely going to drop off that mortgage insurance sooner because of the appreciation, meaning how much higher your home's value has become. That factors into the equation as well. All right, so equity. I mean, this is a cool little graph. I like just going over here and going like this. But we're not going to spend too much time here. This just gives you a different, at what point in time you have what equity you can count on, right? So if you're here, if you're doing the calculation to see, hey, is PMI gone or is my mortgage insurance gone? This lets you know at what point it would be gone. So here, 11 point something, it'll show, hey, I'm over 20%. Over here, you're not over 20%, but it's also not going to matter because remember, FHA, you don't get rid of the mortgage insurance. But if you want the actual, like the breakdown, it tells you right here at what year and what month does the MI fall off, assuming basically just payments. This does not factor in the appreciation. The appreciation, as it continues to grow, then you can get rid of this in 7, 8, 9 years because of the appreciation. This is important for us to see. On conventional loans, you have to request that your lender removes PMI at 20% equity. This may require payment for a home value assessment so essentially an appraisal, to make sure the value of the home didn't decrease. PMI automatically falls off at 22% equity. All right, so selling appreciation. Let's just say you're trying to determine, hey, if I want to sell my house in 11 years, what's that going to look like? Well, it's selected right now, 11 years. The appreciation rate, we're putting a conservative 4%, even if we want to do a conservative 3%, which is very reasonable, something that can happen. Cost to sell, we're going to say 6%, factoring in expenses, factoring it getting ready, factoring in commissions for real estate agents, factoring that stuff in. But you can increase it, you can decrease it, it's up to you. So let's just say 5% for the sake of this example. Tax increase per year, we do need to factor in some additional property tax increases that would happen as just to be sure. Insurance increase per year, your home insurance is going to continue to rise. There's just no way around it. The cost to build is more expensive. There's just a lot of expenses happening right now, especially in home insurance, to where some states and some companies in certain states are pulling out of the states altogether, like Florida, think California. Those type of states have very limited home insurance, providing a limited amount of home insurers available because many of them have left. So this gives you the breakdown of appreciation versus the net cost of selling. So this is essentially how you read it. You see how much your home has appreciated from, remember our starting point was $515,000, add this amount to it. Cost to sell, this is that 5% that we put in there. This is what it would cost you to sell. The loan cost, how much you would have paid in the loan throughout the years. This is again year 11. The property taxes, the amount in property taxes that you paid throughout the tenure of you owning that. The amount of home insurance that you paid through the tenure. The HOA, this was not added in, but you could very easily add in that 564 times 11. That's another 50, what? $6,200, something like that. $6,200. And then the cost, the benefit to cost. So this lets you know how much it costs you to be essentially the homeowner. But for comparison, the rental of, let's just say you're paying $3,000 per month with an annual increase of 3%, would cost you $461,000. So this, again, it gives you that as best as you can, that pro and con of renting versus buying. If you're renting over here, factoring in the appreciation, factoring in all that stuff. So whenever you get told, hey, don't pay somebody else's mortgage, we're giving you the exact breakdown on if you were paying your own mortgage, would you even be on top of that, right? So if this number was, let's say 200,000 as an example, then I would be renting all day long because it costs me less. It costs me less to live over here on a rental than it cost me to own this property, right? So this gives you as best of our ability to give you the actual benefit of renting versus buying. Again, you hear this all the time, especially if you're a renter, you're paying somebody else's mortgage. Well, now you can do the analysis and see, is it really worth it for me to purchase versus sell, assuming a few of these things kind of go on a conservative trajectory, right? So here, long story short, regardless of the scenario, it's still most cost effective for you to own than rent. Now, again, there's other things that you can consider, such as major repairs, just maintenance and things of that nature. You can add that in here as well. You can even estimate the check at closing, right? And this cool. Again, this is linked in. This is linked down below, but you could also go to our. You can go to winthehouseyoulove.com with our good friend Kyle Seagraves, who was the creator of this tool, which is what we use in-house every single day. This is the same thing our agents use, the same thing our internal staff uses to really understand and break down all these numbers for our clients. Anyway, that is the breakdown on that I would do if I was looking for a house in Mansfield. This is how to find that perfect house in the city of Mansfield. We went through the location consideration. We talked about commute. We talked about the property taxes. We talked about real estate prices, things to consider when you are looking at a home. And also we broke down in depth what a monthly mortgage payment would look like, assuming different scenarios. So if there is any questions, please feel free to drop them down in the comment section down below. Everything that you saw here today is going to be linked down there for you to also do your own research. If you're looking at Mansfield or any other cities, you can take the same approach and just replace the city that you happen to be looking in. So if there's any questions, please feel free to drop them down below. If we can help you buy or sell in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex or beyond, also let us know. You have our contact information down below, along with our discovery call, which is complimentary to you. We break down some numbers based off of your personal situation, of what you're looking to accomplish, and really go into depth, and I mean absolute depth, on your home purchase. If there's anything that we can do, again, let us know. But outside of that, see you on the next video. Thanks.